Oh, ROH. Let me give it to you like this. It was a long show. 2 hours of 11 matches that I believe they could have slimmed down to 9 or 8. I know I don't need to speak about this because people would say, dude, it's ROH, you're going to be doing like that. This is not ROH, it's AEW. If anybody keeps saying, oh, ROH exists, this bullshit. I'm going to keep saying on these videos as long as I'm doing ROH reviews. It's AEW acting like ROH. It's ROH light. Maybe I'll use that from now on. This is ROH light. Trying to be what it once was when it's not. It's not ROH. But wondering, did they do 11 or 12 matches when they used to do it on Infinity? One of the problems they had was that they didn't think about making the show balanced. They're not balancing the show. You got way too many matches where many of them were rushed and others that were stretched too long and honestly, barely any character development. And if anybody says, dude, it's ROH. Well, guess what? It's AEW light. Pretty much, it's AEW acting like ROH. They need to change it. They need to make sure that this version of AEW acting like ROH doesn't end up with almost nothing. Because remember, this could still stop. And the only thing they'll do is just show old videos of ROH with the ROH light. They got to make sure they readjust it. Let's move on. Gringo Loco versus Rey Fenix. Great match. I'm going to tell you right now, it was a great match. But I'm wondering where Gringo Loco is going to end up. The guy may look like he got a pot belly, but he's just as athletic, just as agile. He can flip just as well as Rey Fenix can. But where they're going to go with him, I'm very curious. Because out of anyone so far that I've seen on ROH, he's someone that I actually am very interested in. He's a bigger wrestler, a more heavy-set wrestler, like a Willie Mack, who I'll talk about in a minute with Ninja Mack. I can't believe I missed that. But I want to see him be something instead of just cannon fodder for somebody. I'm just saying, like a jobber. Because he did lose, Rey win. Of course, Rey is a tag champ. He's going to win. But you got my point. Now, one of the segments in the back that I kind of wish I had seen the match because I did not see ROH last week. That is Willie Mack and Ninja Mack. And they had their moment to talk. And pretty much, Willie said, you're a great wrestler. Ninja said, you're a great wrestler. Let's work together. Now they want to do what Willie said is Mac Attack. I'm not going to say the Max or the Mac Attack. The Max Attack or the Mac Attack. Don't matter. It is the attack of the Maxes. Maybe that sounds better. The attack of the Maxes. Willie Mack and Ninja Mack. The Maxes. That's just me. It just sounds... I'm just saying. Let's move on. We got Avalon and Nimitz, the Dolph Ziggler younger brother, versus the Iron Savages. Look, it was a good match. But you knew who was going to win. If you manage, and I have to say this because I didn't say this earlier. If any of you have not seen this, and this is the only way you can see it, I'm really skimping over a lot of detail in this. Especially I'm not going to put any images in here. And if you do see this and you're doing it in the funny way, don't be upset. I'm saying it as someone who had to do it himself at one point. You got to do what you got to do. I'm just saying that if you wish you could see this, there are ways of seeing it. Just remember there are ways to see this, because if you find that this might be interesting, if you haven't seen it, if there's no highlights, and you're interested in understanding what the context behind this and you wish you could see it, there are ways of seeing it. If you can't afford it, like I at many points could not and did the nefarious way there is, but I would recommend, and I have to say this now to people because there have been a few people that said, how did you see it when you could see it? I've told them about the sites that I had seen. I can't say them right here because there's a good chance YouTube will take it off. But I am saying that if you are going to do it and do it the nefarious way, just be careful. I run Linux on my computer. So if you run Windows, you have to be very careful because some sites could be known to have risks. So you have to be very careful. For me, it's a little easier when I was doing it then and now, if I was still doing it, because I run Linux and many viruses do not screw with my system. So you have to be careful. So if you wanted to watch this thing the unfair way, just be mindful and be careful. Kind of like if you're going after some girl that was in the street, make sure you wear something, because you never know what you're going to get something when you go like this and something comes off of it, and next thing you know, it's going to your thing. I'm just saying. The one thing I want to make sure you understand about this particular tag match, Nimitz is a damn good wrestler. I don't know if he's better than his brother's Dolph, but he's damn good. But I wonder will they ever do anything with him, because he was in NWA at one point. He never went to Impact Wrestling. I did see him in NWA twice. I did. And I thought he was interesting. Here, you could see how good of a wrestler he is. But the question is, will they ever do anything with him? I know he's still developing as a wrestler. He's probably been wrestling 8 to 10 years maybe by this time. It's hard to tell how many years he's wrestled. But I'm telling you right now, if they don't do something with him eventually, someone's going to be calling saying, hey bro, you want to come? And he'll end up in NXT eventually if he hasn't already been there at least once. Moving on. Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal versus two people that I can't remember the names of, but it's not the point. These two tagged 17 years ago in ROH. They were OGs of ROH. And now they come back together again. I can tell you this. You see Christopher Daniels. He's not a bad wrestler at his age. He's 50, I think in his early 50s. I don't know how many years. Either he's maybe younger than me or maybe slightly older. He's been doing it 30 years. So I believe at this point he's got to be in his maybe late 40s, early 50s. Because I'll be 52 this year. So I think he's about my age, or maybe he could be 50 or 49. He's not young. But when you see him with Matt Sydal, who's in his mid-40s, I think at this point, easily in his 40s or late 30s, you could see a difference because he looks more enthusiastic working with someone like Matt. Because when they did a lot of their work, you can see he was a lot more energetic. He did a lot more moves that he normally doesn't do. I can tell you that they won the match, obviously, because they're OGs, and they may be doing something with them, particularly later when it came to Matt Sydal, when Christopher Daniels was talking for him. They may do something. I don't know. Now, we got a match. I know I didn't say this earlier, but it's time to say this. When you look at Willow, they are doing stuff with her, which makes me happy. I'm glad they did. What is the girl's name? Maddie Rakowski. I believe that's her name. The girl can wrestle, but she went up against Willow, who's active on Dynamite or Rampage and also working here. I did not expect her to win the match, but I didn't expect her to do a hard-hitting match either. So, Maddie, I think her name is Maddie, she gave a very rough match, a good match. More better than what I thought I would see. But there was no way she was going to win against Willow, who's now on a winning streak in ROH at 6-0. There's just no way. There was no way they were going to do it. But that's just me. I'm glad they're doing something with Willow, but I am concerned that the more they do more with her in Dynamite or Rampage, when it comes to ROH, I would rather see on Rampage or Dynamite more than ROH, because having a winning streak over there and here constantly, sooner or later, something has to be done. Now, mind you, she may be heading in Collision. Since there's almost no room for her, there's a very good reason why she's winning here, because when June comes up, because we know Collision's coming, she may be moving over there. That's the reason why she's having a winning streak here. That makes the most sense. But if she doesn't go to Collision and she's jumping between ROH and Dynamite and Rampage, that kind of sucks for anyone that's on the roster. Now let's move on to the next match for the women, because there were 3 matches for the women. The match that was the one I loved the most but made me kind of upset. Miranda Azile versus what I call the Killer Frost, Lady Frost, Killer Frost, damn, that is a gorgeous woman. I've seen her in NWA. I've seen her in Impact Wrestling where literally at one point she got hurt and she healed up. They did nothing with because they had nothing for her to do and she sat home for months and then they released her. She's now here in ROH. But she's lost 3 freaking times since she's been there. What? Of course, she went up against Athena and lost, but gave her one hell of a match, which I knew that was going to be a great match. And it was. But 3 losses? I'm like, really? And when it comes to... I'm just saying that Miranda, when I saw her in Reality Wrestling, was around the same time I saw Roxanne Perez. Around the same time, and she was already a veteran of the ring, had been there longer, and looked better than Roxanne Perez, Roxy at the time. And we see her here. Unless she has a bad attitude problem, or she's just not really great on a mic, that's to the point where people just can't do anything with her. Why is she at ROH? Why isn't she on the main roster? Why isn't she in NXT? I know she went to the Mae Young Classic at one point. She did one of the Mae Young Classics. So I'm like, really? You couldn't do anything with her? And now she's in ROH. She has 1 loss, which now becomes 2 losses. 2 no wins, 2 losses. But that was a damn great match. The best match of the entire show for the women. And I know I'm going to get to Mercedes Martinez and Dubois, and that's next. But this was the best match for me personally. 2 women that I'm very familiar with. 2 women that are damn good wrestlers. And in the end, the one that I wish I could just hug and say, well, taking away from that wolf that was on her shoulder, because there was a wolf on her shoulder. She had her cloak on her head, and it looked like a wolf pelt, even though it probably was fake. I'm like, girl, my girl's there. I don't want to see her lose. But then Miranda's there, and I don't want to see her lose. And then we have a damn good match, and in the end, Miranda did lose. And Lady Frost, my Killer Frost, is now 1 win, 3 losses. That's what we get. Let's move on. Mercedes. Let's get this done. It's on the back. Mercedes Martinez versus Dubois. I can't remember her first name. I got to tell you this. Even though that match was the best match of the night, this was the most hard-hitting match of the night. It was incredibly hard-hitting, brutal at one point. At one point, I think Dubois almost broke her nose at one point. I don't think she has a broken nose, but it looked bad. It was rough. And honestly, there was some moves in there that was very interesting. That when it came down to it, that you had the surfboard into the Dragon Sleeper for Mercedes to win the match. You could see that in some cases she seemed to be playing a little bit. Other cases when she finally got serious. And 100% this was a rough-ass match. Hands down. But it wasn't the best match for me personally. The second one was. Because it was 2 women I really didn't like. Not saying I don't like Mercedes Martinez. I'm very familiar with her as well. But clearly this was the roughest match of the night. For me. And I gotta put this back. I got notes on the front and the back. Now, a match that could have just been left off the show. That was... It could have been its own main event. AR Fox versus... how can I say this about Saban Jr.? He's a good wrestler. Catch as catch can. He's damn good. AR Fox is a good high-flying wrestler. He is a good high-flying wrestler. And this was a damn good match. And this was for the New Japan... Well, I don't know if it's an IWGP considered match. Well, how can I say this? It was a television title from New Japan Pro Wrestling that is for streaming and I believe pay-per-view and streaming only. It's not meant for regular shows. And since ROH is streaming, that's why he was there. 15-minute match. Whoever wins gets the title. But if you don't make it within 15 minutes, Sabre Jr. manages to keep his title. Good match. In the end, Zack Saban Jr. won. I wasn't surprised. Since the first time I've seen him, unless they were doing it multiple times, then maybe he would lose. I don't think so. But after it was done, two groups came out. Samoa Joe came out offended with his television title, said, you know what, I respect you, but you offend me with that damn title. Why don't me and you go one-on-one to find out who the true television champion of the world is? And then we get Chris. Was it wise for Christopher Daniels to come out with Matt Sydal? Yeah, if you wanted to do something important. And it was important because Christopher Daniels said, I have been television champion one time, but my boy here has not. So why don't one of you give him a shot? And it was Saban Jr. who made it very clear. Oh, really? Really? I got a better idea. Why don't you two, since you used to be the tag champions years ago, because you haven't done it now, why don't you two go up against us? And whoever manages to pin one of us, they'll get the shot at the titles. Flat out. And then what's over, and he turns to Samoa Joe, he says, next, after that, me and you will have a little dance. And he says, all right. So, interesting enough, counting on when they're going to do it. Will it be at a pay-per-view? I don't know. But it would be very interesting to see if it's the actual match for the New Japan Pro Wrestling television title for either Christopher Daniels or Matt Sydal. I believe they're going to have the match on ROH. It's going to be obvious. But my question is, will that match happen on ROH or will it happen in New Japan Pro Wrestling? And will Samoa Joe and Saban Jr. do it on New Japan Pro Wrestling? Or will it be ROH? I don't know. We'll find out eventually. Another match that could have easily been by itself as a main event. The Gates of Agony from the Mogul Embassy versus Castle and one of the boys. Now, from what I understand, one of the boys is hurt, so there's only one boy, not the boys, and Castle. It's just Castle and the boy. This could have been its own main event. It was that damn good of a match. And that pisses me off because it had time, but then it should have had the main event because it was that good. And this is where I don't agree with so many matches on one show. If you know that some of these matches are going to be good, like the New Japan Pro Wrestling television title, it should have been his own main event. This match should have been his own main event because it was such a good match. They could have built a story around it and then have a main event with these guys because the boy who got hurt could have been, I don't know if they got hurt by the Gates of Agony. You could tell me because I've only been doing a few episodes of this. But if Gates of Agony actually hurt one of the boys, they could have set this up more thoroughly if that happened. Or they could have set up a story where, because of what happened in their six-man tag, because the Gates of Agony with Cage are the champions right now for the six-man tag championship. Six-man trios champion, the six-man tag championship. Could have been set up. The boy there was the most spotlighted person, not Castle, or I believe that one guy is named Khan. I can't remember the other guy who's supposed to be also a lord or a prince of his island, not Prince Nagi. The boy looked the best. But in the end, Gates of Agony won. I'm not surprised. They were too dominant, and they're the current six-man tag champions. They're not going to lose. But still, I'm just saying. Next, another six-man tag, which has Tyler and the Workhorsemen versus, who are these guys again? The Midnight Heat. This match did not need to happen. It was a short-ass match that gave nothing to Midnight Heat or Taylor and the Workhorsemen. It was just a dumb thing to do. Now, I remember Taylor having an issue with Keith Lee at one point, but now he's in ROH. Keith Lee's on Dynamite or Rampage, counting on which one he's going to show up in. So I'm familiar with him at least a little bit. And I've seen the Workhorsemen a couple of times before, but Midnight Heat, there was no reason to give them this match. It was dumb. I'm saying it now. It was stupid to give it to them. I do not agree with it. It gave neither set of teams, anything except just a win, which really doesn't promote any story. All right. Let's see here. What's next? I'm going to say this. Wait a minute, let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I'm sure I'm missing probably a match. Possibly. If I am, I'm sorry. But I'm going to say this. A couple of things. That's not with the wrestling. Since they were in Florida, I don't know where they are. Orlando, Florida, I believe. The set looked nice. Especially that there was a banner across the top that had, I didn't see it before, but also had kind of like LED lights. It looked like LED screens, which was very interesting. It made it more substantial. I actually liked it. Also, hearing Copeland rap during the time of Willow's music when she came out and faced, what is the girl's name? Mandy and Rakowski, I believe that's her name. Hearing him rap was beyond stupid, but he did a decent job at it. So I will say it was interesting. The final match, a fight without honor, OGK versus Darius and Action Andretti. Great match. It made sense to make it the main event, but I do not agree with the others. When it came to Castle, the Boy, and the Gates of Agony, it could have been its own main event. The television title, going up against AR Fox and Zack Saban Jr., should have been, I believe I called him Saban, should have been its own main event as well. It made no sense to put three matches that easily could have been their own main events on the same show. It was wrong. I don't care what anybody says. It was stupid and wrong. Doing these 11 matches was dumb. You could have gave us more for less. This match was damn good. The person that shined the most was Mike Bennett to me personally. Look, nothing about Action Andretti or Darius. I knew they were going to be put over. They're trying to establish them due to the fact that Dante is still broken with a broken ankle. And I saw when he had that broken ankle. I even showed an image of it when he had a broken ankle. That sucker twisted like this. He is out. He's going to probably have to get screws and a plate put into his ankle. That's how bad of a break it was. It was ugly. But his brother Darius is doing fine. And he's working with Action Andretti. Fine. And I expected to be put over. I didn't expect OGK to win. But it was a damn good match. And Bennett looked like the best other than Darius and Dante. Darius and Action Andretti. One point, which was interesting, you see that I believe it was Darius getting chopped in the chest by, I believe it was Darius. I don't think it was Action Andretti. If it was my mistake. I'm sorry. But he's getting chopped in the chest by not Matt Taven because he can chop, but you can't hear with him wearing those gloves. It was Mike hitting him and you could hear it. And it was literally not Matt Taven holding up, I believe, Darius. It was Maria. And at one point, when he finished chopping, he was going to do an elbow to the face. He hits Maria. And I'm going, that girl is willing to take a bump with her husband. I'm sure he didn't really hurt her that bad. She's fine. But damn, it just made you go like, oh shit, he just nailed his freaking wife. She's always getting nailed by her own husband. At least you know she's getting nailed by her husband who's being careful not to hurt his woman who has 2 kids with. So that's cool. But in the end, OGK lost. And they made it only about ROH. Light. Saying that this is why we are ROH. This is why ROH is ours. I will tell you this. OGK is a great team. Do I believe they need to keep jobbing? No. Do I believe they can be tag champs? Yes. Will they be? I doubt it. I just don't see them being pushed. Other than trying to help other teams to get over, which is fine. If they're that much of a veterans, they're helping other teams, which is all right. But unfortunately, even though this was the best match of the show, it was not the best match overall because we had 3 matches that should have main evented 3 different shows. This one should have main evented this show. When it came to Castle with the Gates of Agony, should have main evented its own show with a story. And then the AR Fox with Zack Saban Jr. should have main event another show. It was stupid to put 3 matches that should have been their own main event in this damn show. It was stupid. But this just me. And I hope you enjoyed this ROH review. Please give me a comment below. I'm sorry it's a little late. The weather here has been making me sick. You have to understand, in New York, it gets very muggy. And with all the pollen at this size, guys, there's pollen this size showing up in my area. There was one in my apartment. How do you think I feel? Even with allergy medicine, I feel like shit. Peace.